Greetings and salutations, my lovely little Bytelings. My name is, of course, Wiggy. And before I get into anything, I would like to inform you guys that this list will be a continuation to our previous top free-to-play MMORPGs list, and therefore none of the games listed will be found on this list, thus it being part 2. You can find a link to the previous top lists in the description if you're curious what MMORPGs were listed and whatnot. And if you're not curious, then feel free to ignore this little segment. Okay, now that's out the way, I'll be talking to you guys about what I believe are the best free-to-play MMORPGs, discluding the previous mentioned MMOs. All of the MMORPGs I will be mentioning are free to play, not pay to play. I will not be listing these games in any specific numbered order, therefore the final MMORPG listed on this list does not represent what I believe is the best free to play MMORPG, so do keep that in mind. Another thing to note is that we have played every single one of these MMORPGs to some degree, some more than others. So if any of these games interest you, but are unsure whether or not you actually want to play them, you can take a quick look at our gameplay videos for said games and see if it's something worth your time or effort installing. A quick question before we continue through this list. What excites you most about MMORPGs? The combat? The story content? PvP? Leave a comment informing us, as we're genuinely curious what you guys have to say. Alright, enough of this rambling, onto the list. One of the very few superhero MMORPGs on the market, although admittedly not as good in my opinion gameplay-wise. Champions Online is nevertheless an incredibly entertaining MMORPG. It has a lesser focus on story elements and a larger emphasis on freedom to do what you want and create what you want than its competitor, DC Universe Online. I am not comparing the two, simply stating that the reason Champions Online is on this list is because of the freedom the game gives you and the quirky style of the game. From what we've seen, it doesn't take itself seriously, and that is part of its charm. Along with a very advanced character creator, Champions Online gives you more freedom over everything than any other superhero MMORPG right now. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, the gameplay in Champions isn't that great though. Combat is good, but the superpowers are definitely not as fancy as they are in DC Universe Online, which is fine. This list isn't about the best gameplay, it's about the best MMORPG as a whole. Right off the bat, this isn't an MMO normally found in top videos. However, I believe it deserves to shine, as it's an absolutely fun game, as it is, in essence, a traditional Pokemon-styled game with the added bonus of being online. Able to play alongside your friends, trade Pokemon, duel with each other, etc. Let's just go over the basics, so you understand what Pokemon Revolution is all about. To start off, like any normal Pokemon game, you get a starter Pokemon, fight your rival, which by the way is a little brat. You'll take on gym leaders, so far just like normal Pokemon, right? However, Pokemon Revolution has amped up the difficulty and lowered the experience gained, tweaked some key features to make the game more enjoyable, at least in my opinion. It's not as easy as traditional Pokemon games. Not only that, but you can have your Pokemon follow you around and even ride them as mounts, instead of a bike for instance. All in all, if you like Pokemon games, you'll love this MMO. It's got everything that makes Pokemon awesome, whilst adding more onto it, which is fantastic in my opinion. Probably not a surprise to see Black Desert in a top video by now, I'm sure. However, Black Desert, whilst often being praised as a truly open world MMORPG, it also gets just as much criticism, surprisingly. But before I get into why that is, let's go over the basics. Black Desert, as I mentioned, has a truly open world that you can go as far as you can see, whether or not that's by riding any number of the varied types of land mounts found within Black Desert Online, like horses, camels, and even elephants. That's not all though. You can also sail the high seas on your very own ship, maybe even becoming a pirate along the way. Black Desert lets you do whatever it is you want to do, so long as you have enough in-game currency. Which brings me to what many people perceive as a flaw. grinding. So if you've played any MMORPG before, you'll know grinding is a fundamental part of MMOs. Most, if not all, MMORPGs at some point will require you to grind. Whether it's grinding monsters or grinding for items. Ugh, Apexis crystals. However, Black Desert Online, or BDO as it's often called, is considered by a large majority of people as a grind fest. You'll find yourself grinding for in-game currency, you'll need to grind to level up, which I guess is an obvious statement. However, couple the fact there's no level cap makes you slightly better than the level prior, and in essence giving you that slight advantage over other people. The grind never really ends so long as you want to keep that advantage. Although while it is considered a grindy MMORPG, this feature is also loved by avid Black Desert players, as it keeps them actually playing the game. Not to mention, grinding isn't that boring when the combat in Black Desert is amazing. Black Desert Online, while it has its problems, and some people consider it grindy, and others spout pay to win, it's a fantastic MMORPG to sink your time into. It has great combat, fantastic visuals and character models. It has tons of features, such as crafting, sailing, farming, player housing, fishing, so much fishing. There's always people fishing. Open world PvP, it has a huge selection of classes to choose between. There's even ERPing. Black Desert Online is, at least in my opinion, an MMORPG you should at least try once and decide for yourself whether or not it's a game you would actually like to sink your time into. Monster Hunter Online is in this list because we've played quite a lot recently, and it's an incredibly addicting MMORPG, just like its console brethren. We just can't seem to get enough of it, even when it frustrates us. It is just like its console counterpart. You have your quest hub, you have other hunters there, you get kill quests, and you go into the world and mess those monsters up. Everything is instanced, but it's possible to play together with friends and meet new people, just chilling around the main town quest hub as well. Since the entire premise of the game is to go out and kill monsters, it would be a problem if the combat weren't up to par, right? Thankfully, the combat in Monster Hunter Online is incredibly fun and entertaining, although nothing ridiculous like Black Desert Online, as Monster Hunter's combat has more weight to it, if that makes sense. Each hit costs stamina, and when you swing large weapons, you can't immediately move away. This can make the combat feel slow at times, but it adds another element to the gameplay, so you don't just swing randomly at your foes. Monster Hunter Online, much like its non-MMO counterpart, has an in-depth crafting system. Those of you familiar with the Monster Hunter games will no doubt feel right at home playing Monster Hunter Online. Graphically speaking, Monster Hunter looks #amaze. It really does. The game looks beautiful, the character models look fantastic, and the environments that we've traversed thus far look very unique. The only complaint I've seen regarding Monster Hunter Online is that the monsters themselves are at times very predictable in comparison to other Monster Hunter titles, at least. And therefore, it is considered to be easier than other Monster Hunter games. I can't personally say whether or not that is the case, as I'm not far enough through Monster Hunter to give an accurate opinion in this regard. However, I still thought it's worth mentioning. In essence, if you love Monster Hunter games, you will love this, as it has all of the hallmarks of a non-MMO Monster Hunter title, with the added bonus of graphics and the ability to play together properly. Before I get into what Soul Worker is, do note it is in Japanese. The reason it is still on this list is because there's an English patch that patches about 90% of the entire game in English. We're not talking broken English either, it's proper, correct English for the most part. Better than some official translations for some MMORPGs, if you think about it. If you'd like to know how to get into Soul Worker, you can check out Styx's guide video for help. With that all out of the way, let's actually go over what Soul Worker is and why it's on this list. Soul Worker is an action, anime-inspired MMORPG. You may be thinking, it's just another one of those hack and slash MMORPGs, right? And the short answer is, kinda. While it's true that Soul Worker does have a large emphasis on combat, and you complete instanced off dungeons like you would in other action MMOs like Vindictus, However, unlike other action games, where you're based in one singular quest hub, in Soulworker, as you continue with the story and story-related content, you unlock more quest hubs, or towns, with new visuals and filled with new NPCs, some of which that can actually be recruited to assist you in battle as companions. And, of course, the plethora of new quests that come along with new NPCs. So generally, the main reason Soulworker deserves to be on this list is as follows. It's graphically beautiful, with cel-shaded anime-styled graphics, engaging, fast-paced, fluid action combat that can make even boring quests fun. It looks great when you fight as well, as the spell effects are top tier, and the general amount of mayhem you can cause is just insane. Soulworker, for an instanced-off action MMORPG, also has a surprisingly good story, as the characters actually have personality and talks during most of the story-related instances. Coupled with tons of cutscenes, Soulworker sets itself apart from other action MMORPGs. So guys, that's it for our part 2 of the best free-to-play MMORPGs. I hope you guys enjoyed this list, and as always, good day, night, or afternoon wherever it is where you are. And I'll see you guys in the next video.
We fell out of love like shooting stars came crashing down, and we're building back up again now. I see your heart, see your mind, see all you hide. I won't let you go, can't let this die. When you lose yourself